We're back with Alden Chodash of AldenBoxing.com. Alden, last night, Manny Pacquiao defeats Marco Antonio Barrera once again. And as you predicted, the fight did go the distance this time. Any surprises in your mind?
Just the fact that Barrera didn't come to fight. Pacquiao did everything right. He wasn't too impressive, but that wasn't his fault. It was definitely Barrera's fault, who didn't come in looking for a victory. He probably knew in his mind that Pacquiao was the better fighter and that he was on the downslide. And Pacquiao fought all 12 rounds, didn't show any fatigue. He obviously trained hard for the bout, maintained a steady pace and pressure on Marco Antonio Barrera, and inevitably got the decision.
And so you call it a good victory for Pac-Man? He looked good to you?
He fought a workmanlike fight. He didn't look impressive, but he didn't do anything wrong, so there's nothing really to criticize or to praise him about that performance.
Okay, and assuming that Juan Manuel Marquez defeats Rocky Juarez in their upcoming battle, what are your feelings on the Pac-Man versus Juan Manuel Marquez 2?
Juan Manuel Marquez is definitely more competitive than Marco Antonio Barrera was. But I think Pacquiao's pace and momentum, when it starts to pick up, it's going to be hard to break for Juan Manuel Marquez, and Pacquiao is probably going to edge him by a split decision, as I think he should have in the first fight.
Okay, so you see Pac-Man winning a clear-cut decision this time around against Marquez, assuming that they do battle next year.
Yes.
Okay, and at Madison Square Garden on Saturday night, it was Sam Peter versus Jamil McCline. Sam Peter withstands the onslaught early and wins a unanimous decision. Give me some of your feelings on this contest.
I would never expect that McCline would knock him down. I mean, this is the same Sam Peter that walked through numerous right hands of Vladimir Klitschko and was only rocked once, notably in that bout in the final round, which could have actually contributed to fatigue. McCline knocked him down early with one shot, almost had him out of there, and the referee could even have stopped the fight. But I think the main reason that Peter went down was because it was a punch he didn't see. It was the uppercut, and Al Bernstein pointed out early in the fight that Peter was susceptible to it, and he definitely was. And it's a punch you don't see that hurts you the most, and McCline put that to context.
And McCline couldn't close the show, as you predicted. Peter turned out to be the better fighter yesterday, although he was rocked early. Who do you see as an interesting fight for Peter next and on the horizon?
Peter showed that he could survive a lot of adversity. I think I'd like to see him fight Vladimir Klitschko again. He's a better all-around fighter than he was the first fight. And it's even possible that Vladimir Klitschko doesn't even score a knockout against Sam Peter. I mean, Vladimir Klitschko is just a straightforward fighter. No uppercuts, nothing fancy, just 1-2s. And it'd be an interesting fight, but I think Klitschko would pull it out by decision again. But Peter against any of the top 10 fighters would be interesting. I think Vitaly would beat him, Vladimir would beat him. And but Peter's still one of the premier fighters in the division, despite what happened last night.
So you do like to see Peter again?
Yes.
And what about like maybe a Chagayev or a Moskaev, if they ever can get that together? You'd like to see Sam Peter fight some of the Russians?
Yeah, the Russians are tough guys, but I think Peter's too skilled for any of them. Peter has a good jab, and he's a better all-around fighter than he was when he fought Klitschko the first time.
Okay, but you see him as being a notch below Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah, Vladimir Klitschko is the best fighter in the division.
Okay. On November 2nd, continuing in the heavyweight vein, it's Eddie Chambers taking on Calvin Brock on Showtime. Do you like Eddie Chambers, and how do you think he'll fare against Calvin Brock?
Eddie Chambers is an interesting fighter to watch. He's a good in-fighter. He's not strong. He's more of a cruiserweight build. He has more of a cruiserweight build, and he has better in-fighting skills than most heavyweights. And same thing with Brock. He has a build of a cruiserweight, and he has good in-fighting skills. But I think Chambers should pull it out based on his hand speed. He has good, quick hands and a good jab.
So you like Chambers over Brock?
Yeah, Chambers is going to make a name for himself in the heavyweight division.
Later in November, a pay-per-view card put together by Don King, and the headliner is Fernando Vargas versus Ricardo Mayorga. Who do you like in that contest?
It's a wild, sloppy fight. Both guys, especially Vargas later in career, have developed to very sloppy fighters. But I think the tactical skill has to go in the favor of Fernando Vargas, who still has enough skill to pull it out in a close fight, and I think he can knock out Mayorga.
Okay, on the undercard, an interesting undercard, you got Kermit Cintron taking on Jesse Feliciano. Do you think Cintron has anything to worry about in that fight?
Feliciano was knocked out in 1 round by Mike Arnudis, so go figure.
Okay, and also on that card is Roman Karmazin, and he's fighting Alejandro Garcia, who's coming off a long layoff, over a year out of the ring. Do you like Karmazin as a fighter, and do you see him having any trouble with Garcia?
Well, I haven't seen Karmazin in a while either. I think the last time I've seen him fight was against James Obey Tony in January. He's a solid fighter. He beat Kasim Uma with relative ease, and Garcia's chin is suspect, and I think Karmazin should stop him.
Okay, and you think Karmazin is a world-class fighter?
Yeah, he's a solid fighter, and he's beaten good fighters. He's almost beat Corey Spinks, and he's still among the best in the junior middleweight division.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Alden, for your comments, and we'll see you soon on AldenBoxing.com. Bye-bye.